This is the best Everdell version, period. Especially if you only have 2 players. Hey, it's Chris, Everdell Duo. They sent me it. We're talking about it. Yes, it is actually now the preferred, the recommended Everdell if you like Everdell and you're especially playing with 2 people. This trumps and triumphs over the original Everdell for me from a mechanical standpoint, as well as a setup teardown and a gameplay length, and giving you all of the Everdell minus the bloat. It's freaking fantastic. Is it right for you though? Let's talk. So obviously the disclaimer is you need to have 2 people for this Everdell, but the gist of this Everdell though captures the magic of the original one, which also raises a very interesting contextual point as a whole in our hobby, is that when you have a version that outstrips its predecessor, literal namesake, what do you do with that? Do you keep the original or do you say bye-bye? I know that's the dilemma with Dune Imperium. That's a whole nother video though. So what you're doing in Everdell, the gist of Everdell, if you're familiar with it or if you're not, essentially all you're doing is drafting or acquiring these cards, making a tableau by paying them from the various resources, and rinsing and repeating over 4 rounds, each time going until you can't. Now, the you can't is going to be a little bit different in this than what you're used to in your typical worker placement. It's going to have a slight twist on it. So if you maybe just like your pure worker placement, this might not be for you. But if you want a little bit more strategic and tactical worker placement adjacent-ish with those vibes, but a smattering of potential, take that. Smart, take that. Not, I'm going to smack you in the face, take that. This one is an outstanding game. And it might be, you know, right up there now as a trifecta of the dual games between Splendor Duel, Azul Duel, and Everdell Duo. Because all 3 of them take, and this is the magic, right? They take what is there previously. They give you enough of a spin. So if you're saying, Chris, I still love Everdell, but I need a 3 or 4 player version, great, you can still have that. But this, if you're looking for the 2-player, play any night, streamlined, get it played, but still have the depth that you're looking for, especially with this, wow, right? I'm impressed. So let me tell you what's going on here. As you can see in front of you, I have a board set up with your cards, which this is essentially your marketplace, if you will, 4 season cards, and then you have a smattering of 7 objective cards up here at the top, 2 of which are always going to be the same every game you play. The other 5 are sets A, B, C, D, and E, and they're going to be modular setup and choose as you go along. The cards of the deck on the main board here are also plethorous, or there's a lot of them, and they're almost all, if I get rid of that little how to play card, almost all completely asymmetric, and so just tons of options and tons of phantasmic usable cards all over the place. I was going to say fantastic and orgasmic there, and I just, you know, it's my channel, I can say what I want. My mother was an English teacher. So you still, though, have your 3 basic workers on both sides, your hare and your tortoise, and then you've got, you know, all of your basic resources, your logs, your berries, your crystals, but you have a few new twists as well. You have the little seals, which are something completely different, more for the cooperative, because I'm not even going to talk much about the cooperative. If you want cooperative, although this is also for you. And then you also have the little doors here, and these little doors are going to offer you a new way of playing your cards to your tableau in the first place. The last element of things is the river. You can see down here at the bottom of the board, I've got my worker placement spots. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 that are going to be the same in every single round. However, I also have a stack, and I don't even have all of them here, but a stack of river cards. And all of these, again, are more powerful, but they're more, well, unpredictable. So what you do on all 4 rounds is you flip over 2 of these, and these become the 2 worker placement spots for that round, which again, for the most part, you can only have 1 worker on. There will be cards that allow you to, well, nix that potentially. And so the other main mechanic, the other main difference, which actually works pretty fantastically well, that this action card exemplifies and tells you is that you have, if I put them on their side here so you can see them a little bit better, you have a sun and a moon token. And you'll notice that along the middle of the board, there are path spots. And you're going to be moving those sun and moon tokens along there. When both tokens reach the end, that is the signifier for the round. So every action you are taking will move either one or the other. And 2 of the 3 main actions you're going to be taking are directly only moving one of them. One action you will be taking gives you the option of moving either of them. So where do you want the pressure to be? Where do you want the take that to be? Where do you want the alleviation, if you will? And these 3 actions are relatively straightforward. You place one of your workers, you move the sun token, and we'll talk about the other layer of these tokens in a second. You then get to play a card to your tableau. You get to move the moon token. Then you're drawing cards up from the market, acquiring them. You get to move either the sun or the moon token. And at any time, just like with Everdell, you do have the option to discard 2 cards to get 1 of any resource, which becomes very valuable. However, cards also are your lifeline, not only during the game to make your tableau bigger, better, and better in every way, but they also play into this last one down here of having more cards total in your tableau in your city, which is going to get you 5 victory points at the end of the game, which is called the journey objective. Now, why this matters is because that last action that allows you to manipulate either the sun or the moon, well, these are the only cards that you're able to draw from. So the adjacency of these tokens is allowing you to gather these cards from the market. So right now they're both on this second spot right here. So they are adjacent to these 4 cards. Now, if I have this and this, if I can avoid knocking it over because they're not exactly flat, so they do a little wobbly thing, I would have all 4 access to this and all 4 access to this, but none to this. And so you can see that that's going to be changing. You automatically refill. Almost all of your critters in this game are going to be berry dependent. And anyway, they are going to also have one other slight twist, which is the little door token I was talking about here in a second. But that plays into the building cards that are the rest of the cards that you are going to be doing. But the other main portion of things we got to talk about first, we did the worker placement spots. By the way, you each have 3 workers, and you'll notice that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces across the board. So if you ever move one of these, sunspots for not workers, for taking cards, someone's not going to get to play one of their workers. Ooh, dog. Them's divisive right there, right? That's the element of take that I was alluding to earlier. At the top, you have these objectives, which, again, are not just achievable objectives like a lot of other games do, but like the Everdell situation is because in order to get one of the objectives, unlike many games where you just claim them once you have them, you still need to place a worker on one of those spots in order to do it. Now, it does give you a small resource to go along with it, but it's winner take all. You're the first one that gets it. Now, there is a little bit of a twist here. It has more of these symbols and these symbols combined, having at least 5 is what that means, but you also have to have more than your opponent. So it's not just a first winner take all. The other main aspect is the 4 season cards over here. They have sides depending on if you're playing cooperative or competitive, and then they basically just run you through iconography wise because you're actually going to be alternating starting and going second to make the game a little bit of fair. They basically are very similar, except for the fact that there's going to be some mitigation in terms of maybe getting to draw an extra card or getting an extra resource if you're going second along those lines. And then it's just rinsing and repeating, just gradually moving along, acquiring these cards, gathering your resources, playing your tableau. All of the cards have the victory points over on the side here, and all of the non-critters are going to be activated by those 3 other resources that I mentioned, the rocks, the gems, and the wood. And so the other element that I did not go into yet is these little doors. And what happens with these little doors is if you ever have a building of a certain color down and it does not have one on that, you can play one on it because some of your worker placement spots or your critters will allow you to gather them. Then you can play a matching critter of the same color for free to your tableau. So instead of having to pay 6 berries, I would be able to play it for free because I have the matching. Now you can only do that once though per color. So that's where you're going to have to choose wisely. Similarly, in the other Everdell-esque vibe with the seasons that I didn't mention, is that on certain seasons, you're going to be activating your growth. You're going to be gathering extra income that you're not getting. And so that is the game. You just gather the cards, place your workers, get your resources, go through 4 rounds, acquire your endgame objectives, which again, I have a huge stack of those as well. An even larger stack of all of the market tableau cards, which give you better combinations, more interesting cards, not a lot of duplicates that you're never going to use or not want to acquire like the original base game of Everdell, and then a massive plethora of river tile cards, which you will not all use even in one setting, which is fantastic. Now, I mentioned earlier at the beginning, there actually is a cooperative mode that you can play as a campaign, achieved objectives, get this many done with this many things, get this many resources, and it's good, actually. It's solid. But you play this game, if you're me, or if you're looking at this, probably, I'm going to guess, I'm going to wager, it's my channel, again, I can say what I want, that you're looking at competitive. And so you're looking at this point and saying pros and cons, Chris. Is this a really good competitive Everdell version? Smashingly out of the park. I am actually surprised at this because, truth be told, I just got rid of a bunch of my Everdell expansions because I said I never get the expansions played. I mean, a couple of them are nice-ish, but a couple of them also, they take the elegance of a game like this, sort of like the iterations of Azul, that, you know, they just kind of said, we can give you more. We can give you more. Do you need more? Are they really all equally as freaking good? No, they're not, in my opinion. I don't think all of them are ones I want to play with on a regular basis. And so this distills the additional complexity of some of the interactions on the tableau in the card-based system here without having, you know, the setup physically and just storage-wise else. And there's just some beauty in the simplicity of getting rid of the excess deluxifications and excess expansifications that our hobby is so enamored and saturated with, to the point where it's becoming a sickening disease at times of I have to have them, and am I actually going to play with them? No. And this takes that and goes, yeah, you just want to play this and still get a lot of the really clever tableau card driven, but some resource management with the worker placement all rolled into one that, you know, really put this game on the radar on your map in the first place. And it freaking knocks it out of the park, which brings me back to the beginning of the video. When you have a successor, even at a, you know, different player count, that just does it so much better, in my opinion. Do you need the original? Do you have any enamoring? You know, when I covered Horizons of Spirit Island, I said this really isn't a better version of Spirit Island. It's just kind of like a slightly lesser version that's slightly cheaper. And I didn't feel it was any different. I didn't feel any reason to own it. You know, all of the expansions were better things to own. It wasn't really a junior version. So like, where was it fitting this niche, right? Sort of like I'm looking at the upcoming Cascadia Junior. I'm just going, well, Cascadia has a fan mode. Anyway, tangent, squirrel. What I'm saying, though, is this just now makes me go, if you ask me what you should get for Everdell and you say you have 2 players, this is the hands down suggestion without any hesitation, because it's an easier entry point. It's capturing all of the mechanical, interwoven, interlockedness, greatness, and making it better, in my opinion. The tension of moving and which one you're going to be moving, how you time, you know, your workers compared to which ones you're getting for the cards. And, oh crap, did I run out of room to get my workers, to get my resources, to get my, oh, I need to do, it works. It balances the first player and the second player. And there's nothing I love more than having more than enough. So you can't just meta at, in terms of the placement spots or the end game objectives, or, oh man, there's just so many good, clever cards in here. You know, you don't get 6 copies of the same card like you do, say, in a base game, where it's just going, okay, I got another copy of that. That's going to be good. And you know what? Even if you end up with ones, because, you know, sometimes between rounds you get to draw extra cards, therein goes the great part of it, is just discard it for resources. or you keep it in your hand because it's also an end game scoring, because these objectives are actually sometimes the biggest make it or break it between you and your opponent, because you may not score a lot of points off your cards, but these end game objectives to go along with them are, yeah, you can't ignore them either. All of the elements work. All of the elements are important. All of the elements are fantastic. And that's why, again, sort of like with Azul Duel, if 2-player is your prescribed player count, both of these games, this one especially, I can see easily ending up on people's top 10 lists by the end of the year. And it's, freaking the beginning of the year already. There you go. Everdell Duo. Man, 2025 is starting off on the right foot. That's all I got. Stay classy. Peace out. Have a great day. Let me know if you have comments, questions, or concerns down below.